in Stevie's case, he used a lot of amps. There's stories about him hiding 4 Bassmans underneath the stage and cranking them all.
Sorry, did you say you like Stevie Ray Vaughan, was it? I've never heard of him.
There was a lot of stress in school. There were only a handful of teachers that were actually friendly and understood what was going on. So I'm holding your one at the moment, which is kind of confusing, but that's besides the point.
I feel like you've got to clear up the whole hat situation.
I like hats. What's the big deal? If I want to wear hats, I'm going to wear a hat.
Boom.
That one person that will walk in and go, well, I prefer digital. And it's like, you're not a part of this. Sorry. At a time, I used 13.5 and I did a 2-step bend on the high E. And it literally just went from here down to here. And I was like, no, I think I should go back to 13.
But the fact that extra little bit just made it.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pedal Porn Podcast. I think we're on episode 8 already,
right.
Cruising along. And today we have this fine young gentleman, Rhys John Stygal. We hope you enjoy this episode. It's going to be a good one.
Literally the most geeky, in-depth Stevie guitar tone talk you're ever going to hear.
Yeah.
3 years later. Just
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
No, it's going to be a cool podcast. We're looking forward to this one. And hopefully we get a bit of a understanding of your awesome inspirational journey that you've gone on becoming a young musician and smashing it, basically, didn't you? So, yeah. Welcome to the show. How do you want to tell us a bit about your journey, like where you started?
I mean, I've always enjoyed music. Well, kind of. I used to hate listening to music, really.
Oh, okay.
But I found something I enjoyed. Kind of more Green Day thing, like more of an aggressive sound. And then I saw a clip of Stevie playing, and that kind of changed everything.
Mm.
So what was it about Stevie's playing and vibe that resonated with you?
I think it was that Stevie has a hook that people have found.
Sorry, did you say you like Stevie Ray Vaughan, was it? I've never heard of him. Who's this guy?
Yeah. Yeah, so it was because that's the thing, we've talked about this in the past. Guys like me and you who fall into the, finding Stevie's music, we go down the rabbit hole of completely wanting to be, as much like Stevie as we can. And it's what is it about Stevie's playing that does that to us?
I mean, there's so much character. Every note feels like it's played with care. Even if it's something really fast, there's always something to it that's still soulful. Which brings that element of how can you play a note so fast and so aggressively and still have something that you go, wow, that was quite touching. That had a message to it.
That's quite an impressive insight for a 15-year-old.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's such a well-constructed sentence. You have to teach me
if I could come out with that now, I'd be happy.
Yeah. Teach us how to speak after the podcast. But that's exactly it. And he never played anything untasteful, it seems like.
No.
It's always just so beautiful and moving. It's like,
yeah, it's like I can understand why people will listen to loads of players who play really fast and go up and down the whole neck, and I respect them, but I see that as more of a sport than someone like B.B. King playing one note and you can really feel it.
Yeah.
And that does come with having a really loud effect. You have to really get the amps up where they're comfortable, but that's kind of something you have to go through. I mean, what 15-year-old do you find in the UK that listens to this kind of music? It's not that common.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because
we sat next to
yeah,
the
yeah.
one.
I'm not only other archetype, but the thing is, it's like I was saying before, I feel like we've had such a similar journey in terms of our goals and all this sort of stuff, because we could talk and it's the exact little micro details. We understand every single thing about each other's journey, and it's it's very rare to meet people in the UK specifically that love this kind of music. And in America, it's not so.
I mean, there are people. It's someone like Tommy Katona. He's from Hungary, but he moved to Texas quite quickly, I think. But he found Stevie very quickly, and went through all the music Stevie enjoyed and found some other music. It's one of those things that's very hard to find. So when I would recommend to my friends music, they'd go, okay, and they would listen to one song and turn it off going, I don't like that. And I go, how could you not?
Put the Green Day back on.
Yeah.
They didn't even listen to that.
Okay.
Yeah, because the Green Day's like the teenage guitarist thing if they get into it, isn't it? But
yeah, for
and never get out of.
For my some of my friends, just before I started playing guitar, they would recommend to me music that was so weird. There's nothing wrong with any kind of music, that as long as you enjoy it and you find something that you appreciate about it, that's fine. But they listened to stuff that was so, like, it was more computer than music.
So it wasn't like the soul and the feel to it.
Auto-tune on everything.
Yeah.
Just that kind of thing. Whenever I'd recommend blues music, they'd listen to it and go, "What's this?" It's like, it's music.
Yeah. So when you was picking up the guitar, did you ever think, I want to be on stage and playing in front of... No.
There was it was something that kind of happened slowly. It's like I would watch clips of guitar players and go, "Oh, they look like they're having a lot of fun." For me, it was more like, "Oh, I'm having a lot of fun at home playing as many songs as I possibly can learn that I enjoy." But it does start to grow on you.
That's one thing we were talking about before. When you see yourself on stage, you can just see the joy overcome your whole body, and you come out to who you really are. It's like, it's really amazing to watch, and it's because I can resonate with that as a more introverted guy. I'm a bit like, I want to hide away. Even on stage, I want to hide away, and I don't ever... Well, I mean, the only time I've completely come out, really confidently is on stage, so I can totally see that that same vibe.
It's one of those things where when I'm playing, I can see what I'm doing, and I'm having a lot of fun, and I go and look at the other band members when I play, and I can tell they're having fun, but I don't remember a single thing afterwards.
That's what... Yeah, I was recently jamming with... I think it was in Texas with Mimi Sounds, and she said the same thing. She was like, I don't remember any part of that, but you just...
In the
it's
moment.
too much there's lights going off, there's people shouting, there's like...
It's kind of... When I think, that's when stuff goes wrong. If I think too much when I'm playing, that's when stuff falls apart. When notes don't hit properly. If you just stop thinking and stop focusing, what would people think about this band?
Like that, as if I need to stop thinking when I play and I might be all right.
No, I was thinking...
It's fairly...
No, again, I was thinking similar, like, he's constructing incredible sentences here. I was like, this is, like, amazing.
Are you sure he's 15?
Yeah.
I'm not sure 15. On that one. I'm going to look it up.
I don't look 15. But it's one of those things where if you kind of always go, oh, what would people think about this bend or this chord or this thing? You start to become more of like someone who does theories. Like what will people think of this? So you experiment with it. And I think that's good. But when you kind of turn your brain off and you've kind of learnt something new, it will come out if it needs to.
Yeah.
It's much easier just to kind of... It's easier to find yourself when you're not thinking about it.
Yeah. No, too right.
Right. You can get too much in your own head and just... You're not in the moment either, are you? So
no, and worrying about what other people think is never a good hole to go down, is it? Because you just, like you say, you just want to play, enjoy the moment.
Well, that's sort of an interesting segue to the next thing I was going to talk about, whereas the last few years for you have been literally... like
whirlwind.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, you've been all around the world, played and met with some incredible people. You've got gear coming out of your ears, like
oh, someone's jealous.
Mate, you're the one.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just no. Does everyone see my new guitar? Is that in camera? The 63 you just gave me. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, what colour's your vintage Strat, Paul?
I'm colourblind, so I don't know.
Well, so anyway, back to the... You're going to have to put up with me and Paul arguing for half this podcast, Rhys.
Yeah.
But, so what's it been like the last few years? You've literally been up to some crazy stuff.
From going from, like, it's going to sound quite sad, but like going from having a lot of depression and anxiety to even leave the house just to walk around outside for a minute, never happening. I basically was in my own, like, lock the doors, don't do anything, to having to go out every 5 minutes is very different, and I'm getting used to it. It's almost tiring. I mean, I fell asleep on the train on the way here, but that's besides the
Because
point.
of lugging all that gear, that's why.
Yeah. But it's one of those things that's very, it can be very tiring, but it's a lot of fun. It's worth it.
Yeah. So, because I think that's tying back into actually when I noticed your posts and that, because of the whole journey that you've been on. So we probably should say that you have autism, don't you?
Yeah.
And that's obviously been a big part of your journey. And I think one of the things was all blown us away is how your music journey is, like you just said, how it's really pulled you out of your shell and allowed you to get on with your life and enjoy it. You know, not afraid of having a panic attack or anxiety attack. Because I've suffered in the past with anxiety attacks. It's not fun at all. It's awful. But getting to the stage where you can't leave home is fairly catastrophic, I'd say. But the guitar and that being able to pull you out is just phenomenal.
Yeah. It's one of those things where if you get to that point, it's you start to get sick, like physically sick, because you're not going outside. You're not getting the sunlight. You're not feeling great. Like just walking around outside is healthy. It shouldn't be so difficult.
Yeah.
And I still struggle with this, but it's a lot easier because I've got a place to go to. Like I need to go to places to do the thing I enjoy.
Yeah,
that's spot on, mate. It's and I think it's hopefully a lot of other people may see this, it be in similar situations, or be able to, apply that to their own situations and go, yeah, maybe I'm missing something that might help me deal with a lot of those situations. So I always found it really inspirational, a lot of your posts and that, and being open and honest with it, because a lot of people sort of back away, don't they? Don't want to admit any problems in life, but we all need to be open and say, I've got problems and this is how we smash through it and get on with our lives.
And that's one of the most productive ways you could ever be smashing it, because it's you've found something that you have become hyper focused on and completely changed your life because of that. So
that's one of the things about the autism, and it's kind of connected with other things similar to it. It's like ADHD. That's another thing that kind of happens. It gets really overwhelming. But then there's eventually a hook that grabs you, whether it's in the shape of a guitar or a paintbrush or whatever. It's always something.
Yeah. No, too right, mate. There's no way you're 15. No.
Yeah. I've done the what's your mental age quiz, and it's always 50 or over.
Yeah,
brilliant.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's the thing about this music, though. I always get deemed as like an old man because I'm,
It's the grey hair, right?
Yeah. You've gone from just being sat at home playing guitar. What was the first thing where you thought you've been given a good opportunity by?
There's one of my favourite places to go to, and I wish I could go to more, is a place on Denmark Street called 6060 Sounds. And they're so friendly in there. They're very open to people playing instruments. There's a lot of fun that goes on there.
Are you sponsored by them today, maybe?
No, I just like the t-shirts. I just like the t-shirts.
Well, on camera, that's gonna be photoshopped as pedal porn.
Yeah.
Just pedal porn. Yeah. You need to ask them to stock your pedals in that shop.
Yeah. They're super cool.
They're great. They're very loud in there.
It's when Sam does stuff outside, you're like, surely people must be like, turn it down.
There's a clip that he did where it was Isabella, the Hendrix song, and he had his full 20-watt Marshall, like one of these, cranked all the way up, and a red bus stopped, and people were watching and filming. It's very fun to watch happen. But Sam was doing. Sam at 60, they were doing a show in the shop, and they said, do you want to do Driving South? It would just be in the shop. It would mainly be people we know. It's an open offer. Practiced the song, learnt the song, and I went to that. I went to the shop just kind of waiting for a minute, and that was the first song I played. And whenever I watch the clip now, I always go, Sam is great, but I'm terrible in that because I'm just playing the same thing over and over again.
I think, because was that the first time you played like live on? Yeah, because if you look back at that, it's an amazing bit of your journey, because you smashed it by going there and doing it, jumping out of your comfort zone, and doing it, mega inspirational. But when you look at how you are now, when you're doing gig nights and stuff, it's like, wow, this is seriously impressive, isn't it? How you've progressed with it. So good on you, mate. It's really cool to see.
So that was one of the main first times where you got exposed a bit online as like.
That sounds dodgy, doesn't it?
Yeah. You got unveiled. That's not a better word.
That's going down a bit. So
stop it.
But the one thing that I look back on, and it's another thing. Whenever I usually watch clips to check my progress and stuff, and go, right, I need to improve on that. But one of the clips that I don't know why it did, I'm honoured that it did, but it doesn't mean I understand why, was a clip of me playing Scuttlebutton, and it was last year, something like that. And it got quite popular, and it's honouring, but it just, I watched that clip and I go, that's the worst guitar playing I've ever heard. It's horrible. But it's quite interesting to watch because you see the differences. Still doesn't mean I enjoy it.
What's the video that you've done that you enjoy seeing the most?
Is
there too many?
None of them.
But it's like we were joking about it before, but you probably won't want to watch this podcast back. But I'm the same. It's and even you said this morning, Paul, about listening back to your own voice on camera. It's like, no, I don't think anyone that's artistic likes to look back at their work and actually it's never quite finished, or it doesn't quite sit right with them now, or it's just, I think that's part of.
It's like there's stuff that's fun to watch because you can tell that you're enjoying it, and you go, I want to experience that again, and that's kind of inspiring you to go and do that more. I feel very it's like I'll see people kind of comment stuff, and it's very much like, oh, you're a copy of this person or this person. Mainly Stevie, but it's kind of like I feel bothered that they don't know that I try and do as much research as I can, even if it's not learning the songs, it's learning about people's lives and what they had to go through to understand, to understand where the music came from, like the pain that people went through.
A lot of people now, it's just want to learn it for a YouTube hit or Instagram hit, whereas you seem to research and really in depth find out about where the music came from and the feeling associated with it.
Yeah, it's like I learn stuff to enjoy it, but there's also that side of kind of I want to play it because I know what it means to someone.
Yeah.
After all, it is kind of, if you look at like some really impressive art, you don't look at it and go, oh, that's a nice drawing. You just, it's like someone felt so passionate about something that they had to put it on a canvas. They had to make it something for a reason. Yeah. You have to learn about why it's there.
So that's something that you're quite conscious of when you find new music. You go back and work out why and the story behind it.
Why and who this person was influenced by and who was influenced by that and where they came from. That's something that I'm very serious about, and it's because I'm not kind of in the majority of people to play this kind of music.
Who would you say, from all those people you've looked in and all that info, would be your biggest inspiration? If you've got one, it might be a top 5 or...
I mean, the one that really opened my eyes to this music was obviously Stevie Ray Vaughan. But there was, I mean, you can't say blues music without saying Buddy Guy. Because he's, whatever you listen to, he's inspired someone or was inspired by someone. It's like Robert Johnson is another one. You can't say, oh, blues music, I know blues music, and play something with some notes in it that sound like it. You have to go, oh, this is where it started. So you kind of have to go, like Stevie opened my eyes to it, and Buddy Guy, really, he was someone that made me go, wow, you can make a guitar sound like that. But I mean, there's obviously Freddie King, BB King, Albert King as well.
Speaking of Buddy Guy, quickly.
I thought you were going to go. Speaking of kings.
No, yeah. You got to tell us about the story of this bad boy.
Hang on, have we gone into the realm of gear now?
Well, it's supposed to be about Buddy Guy, but
with
it's gone now, man. It's gear.
it's gear now. But when talking about Buddy, I was fortunate enough to go and see him, and I had the honor of Buddy's tech, Connor, messaging and saying, "Would you like to come and meet Buddy and learn a bit about?"
Did you have to think about that for a while?
No, I was like, I'm terrified, but yeah. But I was kind of like, it would be an honor to. I'd love to learn a bit about how it works backstage. So I took the neck off of this, put the whole guitar in a backpack, and went to Paris to go and watch him play. But while we were there, I kind of got a Sharpie and I said, would it be okay if you could sign my guitar? And he signed right on the headstock, telling a few really interesting stories, talking about guitar picks and stuff like that.
what sort of stuff was he telling you?
I mean, I gave him a couple of my own picks, which is just kind of standard Fender heavies. And he said, BB tried to teach me how to use these. I'd never got round to... I'd never understood it. There was not enough to grab onto.
Okay.
So he uses kind of the bass triangle picks.
Yep.
That's super cool that you got to meet him. It's surreal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of those things where when I met him, he was kind of just sat in a corner, and you look at him and you kind of go, this guy was sat next to Muddy Waters. He played with Howlin' Wolf. He played with anyone you can really think of. He inspired Jimi Hendrix. When you hear Red House, you're likely hearing something he got from Buddy or Albert King or someone like that. And obviously Buddy was inspired by those people. So it's one of those experiences where you start to kind of shake and you get anxious, and then you kind of speak to him and he's just a guy, really. It's in his last name.
Guy.
The guy. But he kind of tells you stories, and you go, he was talking about how he met Stevie, how he met Eric Clapton, how he met all these people. It's just mind blowing.
You're like, all right, mate, calm down.
name dropper.
Yeah. Some people.
But it was such an honor to go and meet him.
Oh, I bet it was.
Yeah.
That's fantastic, mate. What's this bad boy then?
So now we're getting into the gear stuff.
Well,
if we're gonna do this, I kind of have to mention one of my good friends. He's this guy named Larry, and he's in Arizona, and he does he doesn't make guitars for a living. He does it as a hobby. He's a big fan of Stevie Ray Vaughan, but weirdly enough, he's a fan of Yngwie Malmsteen. Quite a broad inspiration list. But he said, I like what you're doing. Do you want me to make a guitar for you? And
you said, no thanks.
and he said, I want to make a replica of Stevie's guitar for you. What do you want? A number one? Do you want it like a Charlie or something? What do you want? And I said, the one guitar that I dream of owning is a Lenny. And he made one of the most beautiful guitars I've ever seen. It's definitely an experience to play in general, because you kind of pick it up and go, I'm playing Stevie's guitar, and it feels, at first you go, I shouldn't be holding this. But it's one of those experiences where you go, why would someone do this for me? And with that guitar, from the whole Instagram thing, people would get kind of angry, going, why are you playing this? Why are you playing replicas of Stevie's guitars? Why are you playing Stevie Ray Vaughan models, all that stuff? And he got really angry, and he said, before I say anything, should I let me just make you your guitar? So I sent him a full list of specs. And he said, yeah,
How
you're
many pages?
Oh, it was like 3 pages of specs. I said, I want a very specific Fiesta Red finish, but I want sunburst underneath. But before it was sunburst, I was like, I'm a big fan of Buddy Guy, so could we do a black and white polka dot underneath this Fiesta Red? And he said, well, no, because that would look crazy. And I said, but I'm crazy, so why not? And he did. And I said, how about we do sunburst, kind of replicate the old 60, or like early 60s Fiesta Strats. And I wanted the Gibson knobs because I thought they looked cool, and kind of added this hot rod feel to it. But he kind of added all these specs that felt right.
Talking of the Lenny, we were discussing before if we should get them out, and because I've also got a Lenny replica, we should see if we can see what the difference is. Should we do it? Should it? So yeah, this is the bad boy that Larry made for you.
Yeah. So I'm holding your one at the moment, which is kind of confusing, but that's besides the point. So this is that Lenny replica, and it's definitely quite the experience to play because it's not a normal Strat. It's definitely a 50s style neck on that.
It's like a baseball bat neck holding it. It's really rounded and huge.
But I don't know how he found some of the parts for it. It like
So that's a cool story, isn't it?
Yeah, that was he found a sticker online and he was like, I'm not just going to do a sticker because that's pointless and it will wear off. And I'm not that cheap. And he made because he does like woodworking and stuff like that for his job. He did like that's a hand cut piece that he did a template from the sticker.
Yeah.
So he found the right sort of color resin for the bat wing, as people call it, and the right kind of like it's a replica of ivory for the inlay. Obviously ivory should be saved for the elephants because that's not good, and definitely illegal. So he made a replica of it, like the old mandolins they were from, and making replicas of it is quite. He said it was the hardest part of the guitar, other than finding the right colours.
I think that's what Fender said as well about that one. They were like, that was the hardest part. I wonder if it's because you've got to sort of cut into it from a certain angle, and then it's like...
Yeah, I've seen people do replicas and they're never very accurate. And these are the only two I've seen where I've gone, yeah, that's right.
I mean, that one is the official Lenny one that when they released them, it was stupid money. Like I think it was like $17,000 when they first released them. It's like ridiculous money.
That one.
Yeah.
You paid how much for it?
No, I didn't pay that. But that's.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, but when I was your age when I sound like an old man now. When I was a kid, but when I was your age, I saw Fender release it, and I was like, "There's no way I'll ever own one because it's unfathomable to whatever." So
I thought that when I was young, and I still don't know much.
Paul's available for motivational talks if you need him. But so yeah, I think has that one got the signature on it? But I can't remember.
Yeah, so it's not entirely like the wear on it, and from the front side it is as close as it can be, but from the back it's slightly different. The signature on the back is Larry's signature.
That's cool. That's a good little touch
to me, where this is Mickey Mantle's autograph, like on the original, and the neck plate's different. But this guitar is quite a special thing, really. Like the pickups were very specific on it. How 65 Strats are slightly different, and they don't add as much wax to the pickups to stop them from being microphonic. So a great pickup company in Arizona called Odyssey Sounds did a replication of Lenny's pickups, and they're a really sweet sound, but the bridge pickup is just painful.
Yeah.
It's amazing, but it's painful.
It's so funny because since I got that Strat, so many people have said to me, can you take pictures of the insides so we can replicate the pickups and the overall vibe of it? Because there's something really sweet about those Strats. Every single one I've heard just has that sound. So it'll be interesting to compare the sounds later.
Knowing a bit about like older Strats, I'd spend way too much time researching them and finding old beat up ones for sale for good prices, which never happens. I know that 65 Strats have been known for a likeliness to be microphonic, and I don't know how he did it. They're a bit warmer, but they have this really interesting bright sound that most Strats don't have. And when watching you do demos on this guitar, I can hear exactly the same thing. It's just I've noticed there was a bit more high end in the pickups.
Right.
But it kind of depends on what amp you're running through and all that thing.
Got to say, we'll plug that into the vibe reverb later. But yeah, that's such a beautiful guitar. I mean, that's
and the neck is just way too massive for what it needs to be. But it's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, mate. That's amazing. Yeah, something I was going to ask you, Rhys, is before when you was talking about some of the comments online and that. What's your take on? I feel like you've got to clear up the whole hat situation.
I like hats. What's the big deal? If I want to wear hats, I'm going to wear a hat.
Boom.
Also, there's certain hats I really like, but I know I wouldn't be able to wear because it would just fall off. It's like the classic like ZZ Top look, the 10-gallon hats that super tall. First of all, I'd look really stupid in them, but also I just carried on falling off if I walk through doorways. But if I'm going to wear a hat, I think it's fair just for me to wear hats. It's not that big of a deal.
And you're saying you actually wore them predating any videos online? Like, you just like hats, don't you?
I love hats. Whenever I'm at home, I wear like a baseball cap backwards. That's usually what I do. Because first of all, I don't have my hair covering my face. That's always the nightmare. But I just think it's kind of weird that people instantly, if I'm playing something within the style of an artist I like and they would wear a hat or boots or whatever, they instantly go, "Oh, you're copying them. That you're copying them."
How do you feel about the comparisons to Stevie? And do you want to eventually break into your own? So they're like, "Oh, it's Rhys," or do you?
It's one of those things that I think about a lot because loads of people comment about it. But I've noticed a lot of differences because I won't always play. It's like how Stevie would play. No one will be able to get to. There's just something about him playing that's. I mean, you hand two guitar players the same guitar, the same setup, and make them play the same lick. It won't sound the same, even if they play it with the same sort of intensity. It's never going to happen. But it's one of those things that I think about a lot, mainly because I think it just takes time to find yourself. It's like I've noticed with your playing, you have you'll play something that has that Stevie feel or that Albert King feel, and then go into something that reminds me of Derek Trucks or Robert Randolph, where you've got that slide vocal like thing. It takes time.
Yeah, it takes time, and that's something that I've a bit like what you said. You've given it a lot of thought. I've always tried to push that exact thing you've picked out, and it's funny when I was over in Texas just a few months back.
You've made his day, by the way.
Yeah. No, but that's what those guys were saying too. They were like, obviously you've got the Stevie thing, but you found that own little arc that you're pushing, and it's. But we were saying before, if you're like someone like Tommy Katona or Rhys, you're gonna wanna like you might as well play. Stevie, because no one else can do it that well, so it's like you have a crazy ear for picking up the nuances behind any guy that you put your mind to.
I feel very whenever people kind of say certain things, I always go, no, I'm good. If someone says a compliment, I go, I don't need a compliment really. It's
well, screw you then.
Thank you. That's what I've been wanting. That's what I've been wanting. Whenever I see mean comments, I find them hilarious. But
even our ones.
Yeah. Like with the Stevie thing, it's kind of it takes a lot of time. Like loads of people would say to Stevie, "Oh, you're just a Hendrix copy." They would say, "Oh, you're a Clapton copy." If he was playing something a bit more.
Look at him now.
And he kind of you can see it from, if you find bootlegs of the late 70s or the mid 70s to like between June and August of 1990, you'll hear a massive leap in difference. He's not drinking. He's not taking things that kind of blur your mind. He was thinking clearly, and you could hear it. There was something special about it. But there's just this jump that happens even without those things. You'll hear in the late 70s he was trying to do that Clapton, that Hendrix thing, that Freddie King thing, all of his influences. He was trying to do it all in one song, where later on he was just Stevie Ray Vaughan. He might have been influenced by those people. He was pushing them forward. But there was never a point where he was trying to... You can tell that it just takes time.
100%. That's really cool.
I checked on Google a minute ago. It says you're 33.
You've obviously given this stuff a lot of thought. Like, I don't think a lot of people, they might just learn.
I don't sleep at night through some of these things. It's something I think about a lot, because, I mean, whether you think about it or not, or whether you laugh about it like I do when you see someone being mean, it sometimes will creep into your mind, like, should I be finding something else? Should I be doing something else, like musically? And you kind of go, well, you look at all these players in the early years. If you find people when they first started to where they are now, you can really hear a jump. Whether it's Stevie or not, or whether it's someone just doing it for the fun of it, like Stevie was as well. But there's just always something about it that you can't just like pick up a guitar and immediately find your sound. There's really rare cases of that.
But I think it's fair to say, like, certainly when, like you and your mum were saying, when you start doing some songwriting stuff, your natural sound and everything will come out influenced by everything you really like at the moment. But I think it's going to be really cool to hear that when it does come along. But it must be quite exciting.
It's just so much fun. There's nothing else I would ever want to do, because you find something you really enjoy, and you find great friends that you spend time with just from finding this one thing. And I think when you find that, you kind of know where you want to sit.
It's quite hard to replicate that with any other medium, really, isn't it? It's like that feeling of being on stage or hanging out with people that understand.
And gear talk, don't forget gear talk.
Yeah.
Come on.
We keep teasing it, but it's coming later on.
One of the questions I've got for you both is, what's your favourite film? Because that's something that was always part of my life before guitar, was watching movies.
What is you got to drop it on us, what is the best film of all time?
Blues Brothers. If you're a blues fan, you have to watch it. There's so many musicians in Blues Brothers that are just...
I think there's a moment where every time we used to turn up to a gig, we'd go up to the bar woman and just say, we're the band. Because they just do that. And it's like a...
Dry white toast, 4 fried chickens and a Coke. You have to do that.
Musician's diet.
Yeah. I've said to people, if you haven't watched it, then you've got to kind of...
Sort it out.
Yeah, because then you've passed the blues test, I think.
Yeah.
You have to watch that film to... you gain so much knowledge from watching that film, even if you don't think about it too much. Every time I watch Blues Brothers is usually once a month at the very least, and which is true. But mainly it's like I'll always kind of check what you guys are doing. I'll always check. It's like, oh, what's Pedal Porn doing? What's going on?
Still sounds unhealthy, to be fair, but
like when's the next pedal release, stuff like that. Which I'm very
top secret, don't say
top
anything.
secret. But there's stuff like that I'm always excited about. There's Matthew Scott on YouTube.
Yeah. He's awesome.
He's just amazing, and his songs are like, he's releasing songs, and they're always a lot of fun to listen to.
So on modern day musicians, what's like your top 5 people you want to try and see?
That's really difficult, because it's like I really want to go and see Eric Gales.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
he's epic. Yeah.
Yeah, me and Paul saw him not too long ago. But the first time I saw him blew my ears off. Like I couldn't hear anything for like 3 days. It was literally crazy.
Very much like Kingfish. Kingfish was crazy loud. He had 2 twin reverbs, both about like with a twin you get up to about 5 and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
He had it on 5 and he had one of the Marshall pedals. It was the Drive Master, and he had every control on that just maxed out.
That's scary.
And it broke in the middle of the set, and he grabbed, is it the Angry Charlie from JHS?
Yep.
I just saw him do it. He was crazy loud.
Right. Yeah.
And I had to go. We went to go and see other artists after that, and I was like, my ears are ringing after that. Like 2 days afterwards, and it was like, what am I doing now?
Yeah. Is that the weekend you guys saw like 3 people in 1 week?
Yeah, it was Kingfish, Bonnie Raitt, and Robert Cray all in the same week.
That's
and
crazy.
Jealous much?
Yeah.
Bonnie Raitt was a lot of fun, like because for such like a powerful musician and such like it's so good to see someone in like the in blues music and other genres around it to win Song of the Year is something unheard of, because most of the time it's pop musicians. Seeing Bonnie Raitt play was just amazing.
Do you know what's funny? I think when that came out, there was always crazy articles saying like unknown blues singer wins.
I
the
got
award.
furious when I saw those.
It's crazy.
When you hear someone playing slide and open A, you either think of you think of Bonnie Raitt or you think of Boogie Chillin' by Johnny Hooker. There's always that connection. And Bonnie Raitt was just amazing.
Who do you like to jam with the most on the planet right now?
Chris King Robinson.
Yes, yes. I'm open to jamming with anyone.
Even Paul.
I won't go that far. He's a jerk.
That's no. I'd jam with anyone.
Well, you did that. No, you're not useless.
no. I'd jam with anyone really. But there's always like artists that you go, oh no, I'd be blown straight off the stage.
I thought we need to clear this up. It's like quite an important question.
Steady.
Are you Marcus King?
No. God, no. Every time I hear...
How old's he?
I think he's like 26 or something. But no, I'm not Marcus King. He's
People ask you that often then. I've never heard that.
I've gone into guitar shops and they go, excuse me, are you Marcus King? And that's happened like 3 separate times, like in like 1 week. It's that or Ronnie Van Zant from Lynyrd Skynyrd.
You literally should start saying, yes, I am. And when they ask for the autograph, just sit there chuckling. And someday someone's going, look at my autograph. I've never been there, mate.
And just put George on it.
Yeah.
Jim. And it's like, you're not Marcus King.
That's my nickname.
So many people in the comments always say to me, if Pedal Porn reposts you, everyone's always like, wow, Marcus King's looking great or whatever. It's like they always think you're Marcus King. But I've got a bit of a grudge against Marcus King, even though it's not directly at him. But I was doing a gig once, and we just poured our heart and soul out. Did the best playing we could ever do, and then some guy comes up to us.
Enough, right?
Well, some guy comes up to us and says, "Oh, don't worry, guys. One day, if you keep practicing, you might be as good as Marcus King." And I'm like, it's stuck with me in my mind now, so I've got a vendetta against.
So there was us thinking Marcus King had actually dissed you or something.
He's not
totally not. You're right, Marcus. Good man,
we still love Marcus
because he watches this, obviously.
Yeah, he's sat there right now in his underwear, but yeah. Actually, no, he's here.
In the underwear. What?
Yeah. No.
Hey,
No,
I'm
the
wearing
Marcus-
jeans. What's the big deal? But I met him, and he even did a double take. He's another loud one. He released a signature amp, and it was just 3 controls: treble, bass, and volume.
Whoa.
And he was like, the 10's on there for a reason, you might as well. And he puts both. He has like 2 of them, and then a Fender Super or a Twin or something like that, and just cranks all of them.
I remember his first album cover had 2 super reverbs on the front cover. It's like just incredible. But anyway, Gear Talk. We need to get into
Gear Talk. Finally.
It's fine. That's the only reason Reese has
Don't
gone.
worry about my questions.
Oh yeah.
As I knock a can over.
No, have you got any more questions?
It's gone now. Mainly, what were your best moments and your worst moments? And you can go wherever you want with this. Can be life or guitar-y stuff or
Worst moments is quite weird because they're mainly school based. It's kind of like I do home learning now because there was a lot of stress in school. There were only a handful of teachers that were actually friendly and understood what was going on. Loads of them were very closed-minded. Everyone's the same. Just if you do something slightly wrong, they'll shout at you and kind of like hold a grudge against you.
Yeah. Okay.
But for the rest of it, so there's a lot of that in there. Some of the best moments have mainly been in these past couple of years. I can't really decide by this point, especially going from a lot of mental health struggling. It's good to have fun.
Yeah, definitely.
But it definitely brought an element of having to, quote, grow up quick.
Yeah.
Kind of be a bit more mature than other people my age. It's quite different.
Yeah, sounds like it's been quite a journey. So if there was anyone out there that was struggling with not necessarily autism but any kind of thing that's making them struggle in life to find their place and progress, and not, like you said, when you feel like you're the odd one out and the teachers aren't supporting you, what advice would you give someone in that position to try and help them if they're feeling lost, basically?
Speak to people. Listen to, I think some of the best choices is I've noticed listening to podcasts where people are talking about something you enjoy. It almost feels like you're sat in the room with them.
Yeah.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
Well, serious talk and then subscribe. But yeah, speak to people. Try and it's like no one really has their life all figured out and stuff. There's always people going through stuff. You should speak to people. If they don't understand, don't listen to them and move on to the next person.
Yeah.
And find a common ground for people to talk to people about things you enjoy and find common ground against that.
Yeah, that's very good advice. Yeah.
Because there'll at least be one person you'll be able to speak to and they'll understand.
Yeah, and I think the key one's believe in yourself and don't give up, isn't it?
Yeah, I've definitely gone in phases of not believing in myself, kind of just, it's going to sound horrible, but give up in senses, just kind of not do anything. Just sit there and go off into nothing, which it's never healthy. And it's going to sound really kind of, it's going to sound like a really unhealthy mindset, but you can push through it. It's one of those things where if you push head first, even if it's a vulnerable moment, you know where to go. You know the outcome. You know what you want.
You sort of reverse engineer back from that and think, what do I actually need to do, regardless of how you're feeling? You just need to do it and get the job done, which you have done. So,
well, yeah, because perfect inspiration is, you've been amazing with, telling us that story, and where you were back then to where you are now. It's so cool for people who are struggling at the moment to really get a bit of a target almost, and I can do it.
Yeah, so. It's like some people listen to music as an escape. Some people play music as an escape. Some people paint, draw, play games for an escape. There are some things that you do just to cope, but you don't. There'll always be someone who would understand it.
Yeah.
There's always some form of community somewhere.
And that's the great thing about being online now, isn't it? There's so many people that can look at what you're doing and be like, Rhys is the same as me, or it's like you can.
There's always there's a very big upside, but there's also a very big downside. There'll always be people you disagree with.
Yeah. It heightens every emotion, doesn't it, online? So.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories of people spending 3 hours arguing about Celestian speakers, and going, No, I prefer JBL. No, I prefer Celestion. I prefer Weber. Stuff like that.
We probably started that argument. one of the memes we posted.
It's like one of the. It's like I was thinking about that Vibroverb video you did, and I was thinking in the back of my head, that's a D series speaker. There is a risk of that blowing up if you play too aggressive with it. There's a risk of that. So I'd always recommend having an E series that holds up easier.
A lot of people said that to me online, and then I asked one of our engineers, Brian, about it, and he was like, "No, it's 40 watts. It's a 40 watt amp. You'll be fine." And he went into the mechanics.
Like, speakers are very important to the amplifier. You could plug the same, like if you've got a head and cab setup, you could plug the same impedance to a different speaker cabinet and have different speakers in it, and it'll sound completely different. With a lot of fun with talking to friends about gear, there's also that one person that will walk in and go, "Well, I prefer digital," and it's like, you're not a part of this. Sorry.
Get out.
Digital sometimes. That's the rule.
It's when. What do you feel when people say they've just bought a Kemper?
No, thank you. Please leave.
It is funny because some like really big artists that you
yeah.
think are pedal through and through, crank the amp people,
Yeah.
and then they go, "Oh, yeah, I've got a Kemper. I'm selling them." You're like,
I
what happened to you?
I think they're good as like, oh, you put your headphones in and you just like you mess around with different settings and you go, I like that sound, so I'm going to try and source an original one.
Mm-hmm.
They're good for references, and then like if you like, let's say like an old Fender and you want to have that sound, you'll go and source an old Fender.
Yeah.
Where if you like a Marshall, you'll go and source an old Marshall or a reissue or something like that. There's always something you'll find with a Kemper. But personally, for recording use,
That's the quote of the day, isn't it?
they're fine, but it doesn't mean they're the best. It's one of those situations when it comes to certain arguments.
There you have it. Rhys has spoken.
So how do you find pedals, amps, guitars that you like? Do you have to? Because I know you actually live quite near to Andertons, don't you?
Yeah. With finding pedals, I like something that's dynamic. Because if I want something to be quiet, I want it to be quiet. And if I want it to be really loud, I want it to be heard easily. I don't want it just to be kind of like, oh, when you roll the volume down, the gain still is high. Which is the reason why I like your pedals. It's very kind of like, you can clean up easy on it without having to like press a button and turn the whole thing off.
And when you're actually going for it and playing live or whatever, or even just at home, you can really become part of it as well, can't it? It's like
it becomes part of the guitar and the amp.
Yeah.
When you find stuff like that, there are some occasions where I'll plug in like 10 pedals in a row and make a crazy board. I get overwhelmed by that. You find the main three or four or whatever that you want, and you find the necessities like a tuner or something like that, and then that's kind of all you really need. You don't need a board the size of a mini boat.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? People buy lots of pedals to find their favourite sound, and then they feel like they have to put all those pedals on a pedal board.
Oh yeah.
And my dad, bless him, bought me a really nice. Well, yeah, and he's always had that problem where he's got, and every year we buy him a new pedal just to make it even more fun. You know.
Yeah.
What'd you buy? He's
I mean,
pedal.
Like I saw one of your pedal boards, and that seems quite reasonable if you want a
thanks,
wide range of tones. But if you want something really simple, you just kind of throw stuff on the floor and go.
Well, that's what I always do now. I've like my pedal board is like in the loft somewhere, I think, and then I just grab what pedals take my fancy at the time.
Like one of the things I've noticed is what I'll usually do if I'm going to be playing something and I know I want a fuzz tone, but the kind of amp I'm using, it's very clean until you get it up to between 7 and 10 on the volume. So it's not, and it's 20 watts, so it'll blow the windows out really easily. So what I like to do is I have a tube amp sounding overdrive pedal, and then I have one of your fuzzes, because it's got enough range in it to open out. Yeah,
that's good advice. Sound advice. Not that we're allowed to, sway that advice at all.
Yeah, pedalporn.com. I'm just here to plug it. You guys talk.
Get the Texan twang and say it correctly. It's not Texas. It's Texan.
Every podcast out. It's like a tradition on.
You have to. That's don't buy fakes. That's the rule.
It's just crazy how, not to get into that, but it's crazy how, even if you go on Google and type in text and it comes up with text this time. Yeah. It's crazy. That's the first thing that comes up as well.
But yeah, there's certain things you kind of find and you go, this I always go back to.
Is the dualist one of them for you?
Yes. It's one of those pedals where you go, it's definitely worth what it is.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some people comment on some of Kingtone stuff and go, oh, that is quite expensive. But when you counter the fact that it's a two-channel like overdrive pedal with loads of different options, I think it's quite a reasonable price for something that's so heavy duty.
What sort of price is the dualist again? About 300 quid, is it?
379, I think.
Oh, 350 plus now. Yeah.
Right.
Why? What are you thinking?
No, we shouldn't.
Let's buy every single version.
Yeah.
But it's very much like you kind of find something like the dualist in my case. Like I've seen people go, well, I prefer the Blues Breaker, so I'm going to grab one of those, and that's all I'm going to use.
It's because what is it? It's a Blues Breaker and a
Tube
Screamer.
Screamer.
And a Tube Screamer.
Let me ask you then, to play devil's advocate, if Stevie just used a TS9 or TS10 or whatever, why don't you just use that if you're trying to get that? Why would you prefer the dualist?
First of all,
or any other dual overdrive pedal.
There's kind of the difference is if you want to get that sound, it's not always going to come from the things they used. First, it's very much like
I've always said that.
Too good, isn't he?
I've always said that.
It's like I don't have Stevie's hands. I've got my hands. I play a really aggressive like if you look at some of my guitars, there's not much paint in the area where you strum. From my heavy hand, like you'll get a dent and then you get a chip and all that stuff. So when you hit hard and stuff like that, you kind of overdrive the amp anyway. But when in Stevie's case, he used a lot of amps. There's stories about him hiding 4 bassmans underneath the stage and cranking them all, and then having his spinning speaker like Leslie in the back of his van and miking it all up. And I remember there was a count of like 16 amps on one stage at one point, and he would just carry that about, and it was never quiet. You look at the Vibroverb, he never had that, oh, I'm just going to have it on 2 because that's the loudest I'll go. He had it almost all the way up. So a Tube Screamer is great, and they're always a lot of fun to mess around with, but there's never a point where you can actually like pick them up and you'll get that tone immediately. You have to really make your ears bleed to do that.
That's what I've always said about the Texan twang, because people have always said, oh, people don't use the Texan.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, yeah. People always said to me, Steve Ray Vaughan didn't use a Texan twang. And I'm like, to me, that's the closest I've got to Stevie's tone with this limited gear and without Stevie's hands. Whereas, yeah, sure, he didn't use one, but it's, if you give me 16 amps and a Tube Screamer, that's what I'm hearing with the Texan twang when I'm...
And a broken back when you're
exactly,
around in the car.
Yeah, I mean, amps are heavy.
Yeah.
That's such an issue. You can, like, they're so good, and when the heavier they are, the more kind of bass comes from, but it just is so painful.
Well, you're telling me that I literally lugged down my Vibroverb for my little cottage stairs just so I could bring it for you today, and I've got a broken back.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
We've got a new pedal coming out soon that we do want to send you.
I've got some questions about that.
What? Which
the
bit?
top secret stuff? I will not.
Are you filming? I
will not tell a single soul.
Oh yeah, we'll certainly tell you off camera, but right now the whole world's watching. So.
Yeah, I'm excited because I like all of the stuff. Like the Gypsy vibe is just the closest I've heard to Hendrix's tone. And the tremolo, the chicken quiff is just great.
Oh, it's funny you mentioned before about Jimmy Vaughan using tremolo. I've always pushed that vibe with the chicken quiff sound of like those old school Jimmy Vaughan tones. So
that was Slim Harpo. That's another one. Because you get my kind of issue with some of the some amp tremolos is how noisy they can be.
Yeah,
they're so noisy. They sound beautiful, but they're just you put the like intensity up to the point you want it, and it's just a loud hum in the background. It's a bit.
Those circuits can be a right pain in the bum, can't they? Because when we went to Andertons, we had a bit of trouble with one, didn't we?
Yeah.
And went round the loop a few times with that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's a smooth sounding tremolo in comparison to some where it's just like on off kind of sound.
With amps, your main amp is your Silverface Deluxe.
It's a reissue deluxe reverb. It's a great amp. I really like it. It puts up with me because heavy strings are not good for some amps. The speaker that comes with it is a 70-watt Celestion, and it sounds great, but it's just, you kind of, when you hit the low E, sometimes you can have some issues and stuff. And also, it's really loud. There's no like master on it, so you can have the cranked power amp tubes running.
So if you could have any amp,
I was going to ask that. Yeah.
what would you go for? Don't say Chris's right. Well, actually, then he hasn't got a car back up the stairs, so he might say, take it with you.
It'd be a bit difficult to get on the train home. Like, I've thought about dream amps for a long time because I've gone through loads of different phases with amplifiers. I remember going through a phase of like, I just want a Marshall. That's all I need. I just need a Marshall. Yeah, one of those. That's all I need. That's all I kind of need. And eventually, I kind of went, I love that sound, but it never really fit for my playing.
And it would make your ears bleed.
Yeah, it's painfully loud. But I eventually went to the clean amps, like clean headroom, really loud Fender or F-style amplifiers, mainly because there's enough headroom in them. They support pedals really well if you want to have some drive, but you can't crank it. So kind of the dream amps really is kind of something like a Bassman or a Super Reverb or a Vibreverb, just from how kind of pure the sound is. You kind of want something that's clean but have enough dirt in it when you get it up.
I cranked a vintage Bassman a few months back, and it was just, the experience was crazy. Like
I've tried a couple Bassmans. The head and cab was really cool, but there wasn't much to kind of choose from it. And I imagine it would have sounded really good with a Leslie because it's quite a dry sound.
Yeah.
But my personal favourite was the Tweed Bassman because you have a lot more range. But I mean, if Jimmy Vaughan uses it and Buddy Guy uses it, you can't really beat that. But I did a video with 60 with those two amps, and Jan is the kind of person who's like, if you want it to sound good through a microphone on a phone, you got to have it loud. So he, like, when I'm just sitting there or just standing there and playing through it, I notice the amp goes from 2 to 10 really quickly because he'll just lock the doors, run over behind me without me knowing, putting tissues in his ears, and then cranking it all the way up. And I love the sound of the Tweed Bassman. It's a really, I can't even describe the sound it comes through, because you can hear what Jimmy Vaughan does, and he's got quite a clean sound that has enough to it, or you've got Buddy's sound, which is just so bright. You've got.
Did you notice that about him live? It was really.
He had two of them on stage, and he cranked both of them.
Yeah. But it's like he almost has the treble quite high as well.
Yeah, I kind of did some research about his settings. They're painful.
Yeah.
No bass at all. Just everything else is on 10.
I remember walking past it thinking, oh, yeah, and I don't know if it's because his ears are going a bit or not, but
he could hear me clearly.
Sounds a bit brutal.
No, I mean, but that happens to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I got to meet him, it didn't seem like he had trouble hearing.
No, that's right. Maybe he's just, I can do what I want. I'm
What
Buddy
was
Guy.
that? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Tweed Bassman's quite interesting. But the Vibreverb, I love how clean it is. But it's kind of how people describe Texas Flood. It's so clean, but it's so distorted at the same time.
Yeah. See, I got that wrong. I think I did a video recently of the Vibreverb, and I thought he used them on Texas Flood because you can Google it, you'll get different results. And
Google is your friend, obviously.
yeah.
You kind of get that mixture of like, oh, it was a Dumble, oh, it was this, oh, it was that. I think it was just a mixture of a whole bunch of different things. Like, I've done lots of research about the other albums. Like, In Step had like 36 amps all at the same time, just maxed out. And there's stories about that, but mainly kind of Texas Flood. I think it was just it was a Dumberland special, so it was bass amp really, but it was just crazy loud and a vibroverb, and he just recorded with that and a tube screamer. That's kind of all he needed for that.
Yeah.
The thing that kind of bugs me whenever people talk about Stevie is what's the settings? What's the settings for a tube screamer? He didn't use it as an overdrive, but people think it.
Yeah, it's like the classic Stevie settings of like level up and then drive low.
Yes.
Yeah, that's. By the way, I meant to ask you before we got into the gear talk. How many hours a day do you play?
Well, the one that's just over there, I've fallen asleep with, and that's why there's so many dings on the headstock. So I think that kind of shows some proof. It's like, I'll pick it up, pick it up, put it down, usually, but I always try and play through as much as I can. I'll try and learn a song through, or I'll try and play as many songs as I can. It's like to kind of get the practice in for like keeping my fingers up to the right kind of condition. I always find songs that have a lot of bends. I find a lot of Albert King.
Yeah, Albert King on those strings is not gonna be fun.
I've seen people kind of go, oh, it's like, oh, heavy strings are kind of, they're painful to play. Oh, they tear the skin off your fingertips. I've never really felt like that. It's mainly with light strings. But for me, I've found comfort with these. I remember a time I used 13.5 and I did a 2-step bend on the high E, and it literally just went from here down to here, and I was like, no, I think I should go back to 13.
I love the fact that extra little bit just made it. 13s are like. So does gauge string matter for the tone, or is it more of a?
I think it does add to the amount of low end you have. Listening to if you listen to someone like I think the best comparison really is quite a surprising one is if you listen to separated tracks of AC/DC. You listen to Malcolm Young, and he's got 12s on his guitars, and he's hitting really hard with a Gretsch, where Angus Young is using 9s, and you hear a lot more mid-range, and that's why you think of Angus Young when you think of AC/DC. You kind of, with these strings, you have a lot of low end and a lot of lower mids. So if you want to have that bright sound, you have to really hit it hard. So it adds to the tone, but it can also, it's also the limits of what your body can do. And it's not me trying to show off and kind of go, oh, I'm strong. It's just, this is comfortable. If it wasn't comfortable anymore, I would go down a gauge.
Yeah.
For me, it's just comfort, and it's like I've seen people go, I'm using 13s, and their fingers are just bleeding every day.
Yeah. So there's no point in trying to push through if it's just literally hurting your body. You got to be sensible, haven't you, somewhat? Cause...
So what you're telling me is those strings you bought me to try are going to tear my fingertips off.
It's kind of like if you
I
wanted
feel
to
like
use
I've
it
got
like...
to see it through.
Yeah, Rhys has kindly.
Good man.
Can you tell us a bit about these actually?
So those are a custom set. Those are what I use. It's 13, 15, 19, 28, 38, 58. It's kind of, it's not exactly like looking into it. It was kind of that era between Stevie getting better, where he would kind of jump between 11s, 12, and 13 when his hands were getting up and like up to standards again. And I found that really comfortable. I've said to people, if you don't find them comfortable on electric, until the strings wear out, why don't you use them as acoustic strings? Because I know loads of people don't like heavy strings. They're good for acoustics. They're kind of a good all round for me. But they're a semi-flat from GHS. They're not quite round strings, and they're not quite flat wounds. So they have a really warm sound when you wear the strings in.
Chris doesn't know what you're on about now. That's his. Okay.
Well, I didn't know that was a thing. I thought it was either flat wound or normal. So that's pretty.
Kind of when it comes to the hybrids, it's quite interesting because you get that, like when you play soft, you've got quite a jazzy sound.
Yeah.
Which you'll hear in Stang Swang.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
So if you kind of play on a neck pickup on a Strat and roll the tone down, you've got that sound almost there. it's kind of, again, I like things that are quite dynamic. I don't want something that's very like one note. I want something that will be quite broad.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think strings it'll change the way you play, which will change the tone. But if you're using nines and it's comfortable, then that's what you should probably be doing.
Yeah, you're okay, Paul. It's fine.
These tens, dude. I'm not quite so bad.
Honestly, yeah.
But yeah, I've seen people talk about it and they're struggling through heavy strings. For me, it was kind of the opposite. I struggled through light strings. I've tried most gauges. I've gone through sevens before, and those are painful. I don't know how Billy Gibbons does it.
Yeah, because you were saying before that the thinner strings are actually worse for you because it's
they're
like
kind of like blades.
Yeah,
they're like if you.
Is that because you press it? Because you're used to heavier gauge? Is it because you naturally push it down harder?
I push it down.
The thinner ones, you're like a cheese.
It's like it's kind of like a kitchen knife almost.
Yeah, I think was it your mum said before it's like a paper cut, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely like a paper cut. Its 11s are kind of bordering onto that for me.
Oh, well, that's crazy. That's like, yeah.
They're not like uncomfortable and tearing my fingers up like 10s are, but they're kind of slowly getting to it.
Yeah, I tend to use 11s for like my main guitars, but then
11s are a good like safe spot because you can easily experiment with it.
Would you down tune with it or not?
Yeah, E flat, isn't it?
On heavy strings.
Yeah.
I've done quite interesting down tune stuff before. I've down tuned down like all the way down to A, like A standard,
Okay.
and that was weird because I couldn't play it properly because all the notes were so flappy.
Yep.
But it was definitely an interesting experience.
But you are like an E flat guy.
One of my guitars disagrees with any other tuning. It's the Sunburst one. That one, if I put it in standard tuning, it will slowly down tune back to E flat.
Yeah,
it's like I'm not gonna have a broken headstock, so I might as well stay in E flat. It's one of it. Their guitars have personalities by this point because you play certain things. It's like this guitar will put up with standard if I wanted to. And some of them just don't.
Yeah.
And that's just the way you set them up.
If a friend came to you and said, I want to start playing guitar, I need to buy some gear, what would you advise them if she had a budget? What do you reckon a sensible budget is?
Like $1,000 or something.
Yeah.
I think the sense...
Twain.
Yeah, definitely.
You're not allowed to pick pedal porn stuff, let's be totally
okay.
unbiased.
I think a sensible option would be a Strat with a humbucker in the bridge, because you've got a lot of variety. You have enough like punch for it to kind of do more aggressive things, but I think part of that also needs to come from the amplifier. You don't need one of those like small toys. You don't need something that you'll plug into and it's gonna sounds like bees in a box. You don't need something like that. You need something that's high quality. Like the Tone Master series are great.
Yeah.
They're a little bit expensive, but they're good.
They don't break your back either, do
No.
they?
I was actually talking to Larry, who built the guitars, about them, and he was like, "What do you think of the Tone Master series?" And I sent him a full, I sent a full
Why is your mum laughing?
because I sent a full
Essay.
TED talk basically
Yeah.
on this amplifier, and at the very end I said from a tube amp snob, thank you for coming to my TED talk. And he said that's kind of all the information I needed and more, and I was like, they're great, but if you wanted to go down to the tube amp route, they're quite a good entrance. But there's also like the Blues Juniors and stuff, they're really good. I love the sound of the stock speaker, but I think if you added something a little bit different speaker-wise, you would have a completely changed amp. So some of it is kind of like stock stuff is so good.
Yeah.
But if you added just a tiny mod to it, it would make it that extra bit better. My first guitar is an Encore Strat copy.
Hang on, it's a copy of an Encore, or it's a Encore copy of Fender.
My brain, you've broken my brain. It's a Strat copy. It's kind of a sonic blue finish.
Nice.
You can't really see it anymore because it's covered in stickers.
Fair dues.
I was watching one of the clips and you're like, I don't like stickers on guitars. I like sticker bomb guitars.
I never said that.
I've got video evidence. But like when it comes to certain guitars, it's like I made it kind of a replica of Billy Joe's guitar.
Oh yeah.
So it's quite an iconic look in general.
Yeah.
And that's my first guitar, and I probably need to have it repaired and stuff.
What was your first pedal?
I've got it with me. It was an MXR pedal, and I'm really happy that I got it at the time I did. It's an MXR 25th anniversary Dookie Drive to replicate the tone of Green Day's third record. And you can kind of get, if you turn the gain up and kind of move some of the controls about, you can get really just mean sounds from it.
So you were saying like they were about £200 when they came out, and your mum at that point was like, "Oh no, guitar pedals are expensive," and but saying that, it was good financial investment because how much are they now?
So I looked on Reverb.
Can I have a look at it?
Yeah. Put it in your... No, come on. So there was I was looking on Reverb and there were a whole bunch of prices. There were some people selling it for the same price, but most of the sold listings, I saw them go for £750.
The moral of the story is keep buying Rhys pedals, is it? Then you can retire early.
But it's kind of, it was one of those experiences where I was like, I know I want that specific version because it's got one of my favourite album art on it. And it sounds the way I like. Those people that say my first pedal was like a tuner pedal or a wah pedal or something like that. But when it goes to an overdrive, you kind of have this soft spot for some of the tones you get from different overdrive pedals.
Yeah, totally,
definitely. Yeah. You were saying earlier about how you pick up songs that you're very good with listening and not too much a fan of tablature.
With that, I can read it, but it all of a sudden kind of the way you read it just kind of jumbles about.
Okay.
And I get headaches really badly.
Okay.
So I don't use tabs.
But because from what you've been saying, do you feel it's more, it sounds wrong, but like not that you're a better player, but it's for more right way of picking up stuff by using your ear and getting...
You feel kind of like, I feel like you get this feeling of accomplishment when you figure something out and you watch a video of them doing the exact same thing and you go, that's what I was just doing.
And also that helps you as a player overall, doesn't it? Because then later on down the line, you've then got all of those.
If you're going to be playing with different people every time, you kind of need to pick up on that quite quickly. So if you're dedicated to tab, it's quite the challenge to jump over to.
I found that at college, there's a bunch of guys that were tab guys, and then if they ever went to do a jam, they'd be a bit like, oh no, I'm just lost. But because I'd always had to learn by ear, like yourself, I could just think, oh, they're in A, let's just jam some chili con carne style blues in this one. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. So
you're right there, because I remember Chris Buck, when he was doing the Buck and Evans stuff, he did a slow train or something like that. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, I want to learn that. And I'm rubbish with picking stuff up. Generally, I use a bit of tab to help me along the way. But so I got the tab and then also was trying to listen to it. And I was like, that doesn't sound right.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
But it turns out that he doesn't play the same solo like ever.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so the tab's this version.
Yeah.
The video I'm watching's a different one.
And the tab's wrong. Because the tab's never right. So
it's like I tried learning Life Without You just before I stopped using tabs, and it was the live version of Life Without You, and I went, no, I'm just gonna give up on tab and I'm just gonna listen to it. I'm gonna listen to every version I can.
But with tab, you're relying on someone else's ears to have transcribed it in a way which is accurate. So your ears, credit to you, would be probably better than the person trying to teach you Life Without You. So yeah, I think tabs are. I agree. Tabs are for beginners. No, tabs are for like good if you're like in primary school. You know what I mean?
There's certain
I feel like
points.
I'm on fire. So what is the fuel for Rhys then? What's your favourite food? Go on then, grab.
Favorite
grab
food. It's kind of very stereotypical from the way I dress that I love barbecue.
Nice.
You would have liked it in Texas. I have to say, you got to go to Texas.
Yeah, I've seen some places. It's like, did you go to Sam's Barbecue?
No, I think we were going to. But by the way, though, every single person in Texas thinks they know the best barbecue. Like and everyone's very.
I spoke to. I went to one of Billy Gibbons' shows at Shepherd's Bush. I spoke to his bandmate Austin Hanks, and he's kind of the other guitar player, but he has this pickup installed that makes it an octave down, so it sounds like a bass.
Nice.
And he was like, "I'm from Alabama, so I believe that barbecue from Alabama is the best," and Billy believes kind of otherwise, but it depends on if his wife is in the room, because his wife's from Alabama too.
Right.
And it's kind of seems like that throughout most of America. It's like people who lived in certain states will believe has the best barbecue.
Yeah.
3 British guys talking about barbecues. It's crucified.
It's definitely accurate. Definitely.
What was Nam like?
How many words?
Now in 10 words.
It was a lot of fun. It was quite interesting because we got to meet up with John at Peach.
Oh yeah.
And even though we're not very far from here, it took us to go on an 11-hour flight to meet him.
Yeah.
And we had a nice conversation. And I was talking to him about guitar straps specifically, like Stevie's guitar straps. And he was like, I don't know where the strap that Stevie wore in the later years came from. And I said, actually, I brought one that was made by the same guy. And actually, it's this one.
That's a flex, isn't it? Look what I've got.
Is that the one that Wes has got as well?
Yeah.
Charlie Christian, is it?
No, it's Christian Brooks.
Oh, yeah. Charlie Christian Brooks.
Christian Brooks in Dallas, Texas. He makes, he's made guitar straps for loads of people. He's done Billy Gibbons guitar straps, Wes Jeans, Tommy Katona.
All those guys they all just kept saying to me, "You need to get one of these straps." And
you really need to. They're really comfortable. But he was talking about John at Peach. He was like, "I've never seen that before, and that's my favorite type of guitar strap." And it was a lot of fun. And I felt like I needed to bring it with me. With the NAMM show, it was very overwhelming, and there were so many people that I met there that I could have been in a car ride just to meet you, and it took us to go on an 11-hour flight just to come and say hi.
Yeah.
Apparently from people who've been there before, it was quite underwhelming.
Yeah, people said that, but
okay.
I disagree. It was very overwhelming. It was a lot of fun, but it was very kind of like, wow, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Do you think that was more because people have been there before and they felt...
There's a context of it.
You know, post-COVID, it's all different now, isn't it?
Yeah, there's been... People were like, oh, it's not as crowded as it used to be. And I'm like...
Thank God.
Yeah. It's definitely an experience that I think people should... like
at least once, sort of thing.
At least once.
Yeah.
And pedal companies should take their employees as well.
Yeah. I think you should go because it's quite an interesting experience. Definitely quite stressful at first.
Yeah.
But it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, Paul doesn't have to worry about the stress. He just turns up in his little flight. But no, we should go, shall we?
I think you should. It's a lot of fun. Also, it'd be quite funny because it'd be like, we've met up so many times. Why did it take us to meet up here again?
Yeah, we had that at the Birmingham guitar show, didn't we? That was like, we was walking around and everyone was like, oh yeah, it was like meet and greet with everyone.
Yeah, it's quite nuts, isn't it?
Yeah.
I noticed you've got your talking of the show because both Pete and Forpy were there.
Yeah.
Brought along a little pedal.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Dane's Group.
Yeah.
Hello,
Pete signed it as well on the side.
Did he do anything else to it? Because he likes to kiss and cuddle some of these.
He signed the right side of it.
Yeah.
He was just like, oh, I'll send you a Dane, and it's so good, but it's kind of like you have to get it up to the right spot on the amp. It's one of those pedals where it's so loud but so much fun.
Yeah, Pete's a legend, isn't he?
Yeah. he's a lot of fun, and we were kind of talking about guitars, and I said you kind of have to do a purple with his because of his signature thing.
You said that, Paul, didn't you? You was like, I'll buy one of those new.
He was like, oh, I've got this yellow one, and I was like, yeah, but you need to do a purple.
Yeah, we don't care about the yellow one, mate. Yeah, but it's a
What's
Porsche
this yellow?
Yeah,
it's a Porsche finish. No, it needs to be sparkly purple with a gold pick guard.
You said to Pete, you said to him, I'll buy one of these guitars if you make it purple.
Yeah.
And I was like, you
Stevie,
must be so fed up.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
It's kind of expected by this point, and it's kind of surprising because when you think of purple, you kind of need to think of Prince, but you think of Pete now.
Yeah.
So, wrapping it up, what is the next stage on the Rhys journey of awesomeness?
Lunch. Every time lunch. No, I don't plan anything. If you want anything later than that, it's dinner. There's no point planning ahead unless you have got something set in stone. There's no point.
But that doesn't sound quite right, because what was this talk of a Texas trip I was hearing?
The kind of plan behind it is that in May, when the Dallas International Guitar Festival will be going on, I might be going, and I'm
That'd
really
be cool.
I'm really hoping, and I'm really excited if that's happening. It'd definitely be something I'm excited about. The main thing I'm a bit worried about is the heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 42 degrees out there when I got back to the UK. It was 27, and which is quite hot for us. But when I got back off the plane, I was like, it feels cold again now. It's nice. It was because
So back to Dallas. If you managed to get there, who would you like to go on stage with if you got the opportunity? I'm thinking Philip Sace could be there.
Philip Sace would be a lot of fun. But the one
and the rest.
But the Tommy Katona would be a ton of fun, because Tommy's very busy. But when I get the chance to kind of speak to him, he's always just so much fun to talk to.
Yeah, as I was saying to you off camera before, all those Texas guys were well impressed by you. Like they're keeping an eye on you, so there's no pressure. But you could be the baton could be handed to you very soon. So yeah, it's crazy.
Good man.
They were blown away, and what they did say is, in the short space of time you've been playing, the momentum you've had, like people could spend 10, 20 years trying to cram in what you've done in a couple of years. So imagine in 10 years what we could be seeing. It's pretty insane. I mean, so if everyone hasn't checked out Rhys's playing, definitely check out his playing. It's literally insane. Where should we find you? What's the best place to go and find you?
Instagram, and Facebook and TikTok, I think.
Is it just your name?
Rhys John Stygal or Rhys Guitar. I'd usually say Rhys Guitar.
Yeah, I feel like you got almost like.
I want to change it, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, but
Mum's in trouble.
Yeah. But you've got like almost 40,000 followers on Instagram now, which is.
Yeah, I don't focus on that.
Yeah.
Because when I see that, I go, okay. I'm honoured that people are enjoying it, but it's kind of, that's not the reason why I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's like vanity metrics, as they call it. Like, it's
He buys into that.
Yeah. We have just hit 200,000 subscribers. So. That's pretty crazy. But it's a good mindset. If you start,
if you start focusing on it, you kind of get this like, oh, the numbers are going down. That's terrible. It's too much of it. Like you focus on the numbers too much, you get caught in it, and you're not focusing on the thing you really enjoy.
Damn. Well, on that bombshell.
There's no way he's 15. But a very fun. Before you wrap up, we need a quick shout out to your mum, because she's supported you like no tomorrow, and it's been fantastic. Like the way you get dragged around everywhere. It's always like you're going somewhere, kick ass and that. So yeah,
taking over
I
the
might
world.
be a bit too loud, but that's besides the point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, so normally at the end of each podcast we play a little game where it's like a little word association game. So we're going to list off some random topics. You literally have to give us whatever word or small phrase comes to mind when we list off the topics. And Paul, if you think of something in your head as well when we're doing this, so you can fire some in as well. But so the first one is SRV.
How much time do you have? There's just too much to
It's
describe.
the first thing that pops in your head.
Just so much feel.
There's a lot going around your head. isn't there?
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
Feel.
Just feel.
Spot on.
Okay. John Mayer. Poor John Mayer.
Meh.
Jimi Hendrix.
That's another one. I can't think of anything
I
because
think
there's so
that
much.
kind
Yeah.
of is what everyone would go with, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ear bleeding. That's the one.
Fuzz faces.
Part of the instrument.
That's cool. Pervy Paul.
Fun.
Hey!
Pedal porn.
Tone.
Aha.
Pedal porn's rivals.
Just say rubbish. Crap. Horrible. Will be
Metal
destroyed.
Zone. No.
That's a wicked one.
This thing.
Yeah.
This thing.
Yeah. That's how kryptonite. Guitar pedals.
You. Oh, that's interesting. If you're putting over 10 on a board, it's too much.
Fair dues. What about Gibson guitars?
That's another one. Oh, they're a lot of fun. They're just there's too many words. Again, there's too many words.
The hat.
Comfortable.
Okay, have you got any more, Paul? 'Cause I've got one last one, but
No, go for it.
okay. Rhys's future legacy.
Hats.
Yeah. Okay, guys, thank you so
Super
much.
chilled.
Thank you so much for watching the 8th episode of the Pedal Porn Podcast. Make sure you definitely check out Rhys's playing on Instagram. We'll leave a link in the description because you really don't want to miss out on his insane playing. And yeah, thanks to Pervy Paul. Thanks to Ali behind the camera. Awesome super mum. And we'll catch you on the next one. And cheers.
That was fun.
Hey!
That was fun.
Hey,
Also, there was
man.
so many in that.